Hey everyone, tonight we are journeying back into the past. We will explore the flickering, torchlit castles and damp, muddy streets of medieval Europe. We are here to answer a simple question. What substances did people use to alter their minds in medieval times? These were not modern creations from a lab. They were a strange and potent collection of natural remedies. These were the herbs, powders, and strange brews that helped our ancestors cope. They used these concoctions for pain and for spiritual journeys. Some of them provided simple comfort in a harsh and unforgiving world. They were a part of everyday life, woven into medicine and ritual. We will uncover these forgotten secrets tonight. Before we begin our sleepy exploration, please take a moment. If you enjoy this kind of historical deep dive, consider subscribing to Medieval Nocturnes. Your support helps us create more content just for you. Now find a comfortable spot, dim your lights, and let the world outside fade away. Let us consider a few things before we drift off. Did people truly get high from tainted bread? Or was it just food poisoning with vivid side effects? What was considered medicine when your doctor might also be the town barber? The lines between science and superstition were incredibly blurry. It was a time of great faith and great fear. Did monks really brew ale so potent it induced divine visions? Or was it a convenient excuse for their strange behavior? Was the smoke from burning sage a sacred rite? Or was it just an early attempt at aromatherapy? And did peasants consume poppy seeds until they forgot their own troubles? We will explore these questions as we go. Imagine this. You have just awakened in the year 1349. You are about to discover a world where cannabis is a common medicine. Poppy seeds are a frequent part of dinner. The local monastery is the main source of powerful remedies. These are managed by monks who are perpetually tired. Good luck navigating this strange new reality. You slowly open your eyes to a dim room. A monk is grinding a green plant with a mortar and pestle. He assures you it is for your aching back. But you start to wonder about medieval healthcare. It seems to be based on whatever grows behind the church. This is your introduction to cannabis, a plant prescribed for everything from joint pain to deep sadness. Let us paint a picture of the scene. The year is 1357. Dawn is breaking. Your straw mattress feels less like a bed and more like a collection of sharp sticks. Your back aches as if you have been sleeping inside a wooden barrel, which, in fact, you have. Into this world of discomfort comes Brother Raymond. He is the monastery's designated healer. He is also famous for misplacing his own sandals. He insists he is familiar with all the latest medical knowledge. By latest, he means the writings of Galen, a physician who has been dead for more than 1,000 years. His other source is a vision he once had involving a goat that spoke to him. He pulls out an old wooden box. Inside is a bundle of dried hemp leaves. He gives you a look that is meant to be reassuring. Trust me, his eyes say. I have only set my own beard on fire twice. In the medieval world, cannabis is seen as a universal remedy. If you have back pain, you might be given a cannabis poultice. For cramps, you might drink hemp tea. If you cannot sleep, a few puffs from a pipe before evening prayers will solve the problem. You will likely sleep through the morning chants, and possibly even your own excommunication from the church. The good news is that nobody considers it a drug. Not in the modern sense. Cannabis is simply another item in the medieval medical toolkit. It sits on the shelf, somewhere between blood-sucking leeches and aggressive prayers. The same plant used to make strong ropes is also ground into pastes. These ointments are green, sticky, and rarely come with clear instructions for use. Let's discuss the concept of dosage. There is no such thing. Medieval medicine is not a precise science. It is more of an art form based on hope. Brother Raymond measures his ingredients by the handful. This is the medical equivalent of guessing. Some old recipes suggest steeping the cannabis in warm wine. Others recommend mixing it with goose fat and applying it directly to the sore area. The only consistent outcome is the strange sensation that follows. You might feel completely healed, or you might start believing you can hear colors. What about the side effects? No one is keeping detailed records. If you are lucky, your pain subsides, your mood improves. You might even become popular at evening prayers for sharing your special herbal cookies. If you are unlucky, you become a cautionary tale. The story of the man who thought he was a duck becomes a local legend. But in an era where the most common painkiller is a mug of strong ale and a firm slap, cannabis is a welcome miracle. Peasants use it for their aching joints after a long day of work. Nobles apply hemp oil to their temples to ease headaches from wearing heavy crowns. Even the local priest has a secret recipe he uses for contemplation. He does not share this with the visiting bishop, unless, of course, the bishop remembers to bring snacks. The best part is that nobody judges you for taking your medicine. The church has not forbidden its use. The king has not imposed a tax on it. The local law enforcement is too busy dealing with stronger things, like fermented turnip juice. Cannabis is so common, you could bake it into your Sunday bread. No one would even notice. In fact, they would probably ask you for the recipe. As the evening approaches, you realize your back feels a little better. Or perhaps you have simply stopped caring about the pain. The monk offers you a warm mug of hemp tea. He also gives you a gentle reminder to keep your feet off the altar. You take a sip and let out a long sigh. You drift into a peaceful sleep. You are grateful for this small miracle of medieval medicine. A night without pain is a true blessing. You can even forget the memory of your dinner escaping with the neighbor's goat. You have survived another day. And thanks to cannabis, you might even look forward to tomorrow, even if you will still wake up in a barrel. There is a peculiar smell coming from the apothecary's tent. It is not the usual scent of old bandages. The poppy plant is now in season. That means opium is readily available. It is the medieval solution for pain and insomnia. It is also the reason you might say, "I cannot feel my legs." The cure for that feeling is probably more opium. Let us begin with the basics. It is a normal day in the year 1372. You have stubbed your toe on a loose stone in the road. You sprained your wrist while wrestling a particularly stubborn sheep. You also have a mysterious rash that the barber surgeon says is probably fine. Pain is simply a part of your daily existence, so you limp into the local apothecary's tent. The tent smells like a mixture of moldy fruit and deep regret. Dried herbs hang from the ceiling. The owner is wearing a robe you hope is for medicinal purposes, and not just his sleeping garment. He points you to a seat on a bale of hay that crackles ominously. He then begins to search through dozens of unlabeled clay jars. There are no child-proof caps here. The only warning is an unspoken rule: do not lick the strange purple paste. Eventually, he finds the jar he was looking for. Inside is a lump of sticky brown paste. It is made from the sap of poppy pods. The paste is wrapped in what looks like yesterday's bread. Opium is without a doubt the all-in-one miracle of medieval medicine. It is the equivalent of a painkiller, a sleeping pill, and a strong coffee. It is used for almost everything. If you have a toothache, you rub it directly on your gums. If you have trouble sleeping, you eat a small amount with honey. If you suffer from the dread of living in the 14th century, opium is there to help you. For nobles, it is mixed into expensive, spiced wines. For a peasant, it is dissolved in cheap ale and called Tuesday night. The problem is that nobody really knows how much is too much. The apothecary's method for dosing involves a lot of squinting. He also relies on a philosophy of, let's see what happens. There are no warning labels on the jars. There are no helpful dosage charts. There is only a vague family recipe written in Latin. It advises you to use enough to quiet your demons, but not so much that you end up meeting them in person. Sometimes you take too little, then you are still in agony by the next morning. Sometimes you take too much, then you might spend the next 2 days in a deep conversation with your furniture. The coat rack in the corner suddenly seems very wise. It has seen a lot of coats come and go. It must have some stories to tell. And it is not just for pain. Opium is a solution for many problems, at least according to the monks who sell it on the side. They conduct their business between their daily prayers and cheese-making contests. It is given to irritable babies and to grumpy old people. It is given to anyone who sneezes too close to the Lord's dinner. There are poppy-based syrups for bad coughs. There are poultices made from poppy for wounds. There are even small poppy seed cakes for special occasions. Honestly, it is a miracle that anyone in the village can remember their own birthday. Every day feels a little bit hazy, but at least it is a comfortable haze. Side effects? Oh, there are definitely side effects. After a dose of medieval opium, you might find yourself staring blankly at a wall. You could spend hours inventing new shapes for clouds. You might even forget how to use your own feet for a while. Your friends and family do not seem to mind. Frankly, everyone in the village is a little bit strange. He is just having a poppy nap, they say with a shrug. They watch as you drool onto the front of your tunic. You are blissfully unaware that the chickens have just stolen your left shoe. Of course, withdrawal is not a topic of discussion. If you run out of opium, you just go back to being in pain. In the Middle Ages, pain is the normal state of being. Nobles sometimes develop secret poppy habits. They hide their jars at the bottom of their jewelry chests. They blame the servants when their supply runs low. For peasants, the main issue is affording enough to get addicted in the first place. Still, in a world without proper anesthesia or antibiotics, opium is as close to a miracle as you can get. Whether you are recovering from a battle wound or a toothache, or just trying to sleep through the priest's long sermon, you are grateful for the humble poppy plant. The only question that remains is a simple one. Will you wake up before someone tries to steal your lunch? By sundown, the apothecary's tent is full of soft groans. There is gentle snoring, and at least one person is claiming they can hear angels singing. You shuffle out of the tent. Your legs feel a little wobbly. Your head is full of a soft, cottony feeling. You realize that medieval pain relief is quite simple. You are either cured unconscious or about to be the star of next week's morality play. The lesson is simple. Do not trust the man with the sticky brown paste. Hemp It is not just for making strong ropes, or for weaving awkwardly stiff shirts. In the Middle Ages, its seeds often ended up in your morning porridge. The stalks were used to make shoes, and the leaves, well, let's just say, nobody was ever quite sure, was Grandma's evening soup supposed to taste that interesting? Let us set the scene for you. It is a busy market day in the year 1311. You are wandering through the village square. You have a vague hope of trading one of your extra turnips. You would trade it for literally anything that is not another turnip. You pass by stalls selling all sorts of things. There is questionable-looking cheese, and there are candles shaped like saints. But the real excitement is at the hemp merchant's cart. An enterprising peasant is selling his miracle fibers. He has the enthusiasm of a modern television host. Do you need a new rope? Hemp is the answer. Do you need a sack for carrying your vegetables? Hemp is what you need. Do you need to patch your leaky roof, or mend your only pair of trousers, or perhaps make underpants that feel like a cheese grater? Hemp can do it all. But it is not just the practical uses that made hemp a medieval superstar. Somewhere in history, someone realized that hemp seeds were edible, at least if you did not mind the texture of gravel or the mild flavor of disappointment. They were often thrown into porridge, they were ground into a rough meal, or they were sprinkled over bread like poppy seeds, but with less chance of seeing angels, and more chance of getting stuck in your teeth for a week. As for the stalks, they are strong enough to be woven into almost anything. They were used for ropes and for sandals. They made excellent fishing nets. If you were truly desperate, you could make a helmet out of them. It would be perfect for the next village snowball fight. Hemp was basically the duct tape of the Middle Ages. If duct tape was itchy and plant-based, and also a valid form of payment when the grain harvest failed, then there are the leaves. Officially, they were just another green vegetable. You could toss them into whatever stew was bubbling over the fire. Unofficially, every family has a story. The one about Uncle Edric, who added a bit too much hemp to the pottage. He then spent the entire night trying to negotiate a peace treaty. He wanted the house cat and the soup ladle to be friends. To this day, Grandma's special soup is spoken about in hushed tones. No one is entirely sure what was in it, but everyone remembers feeling strangely calm. They did not worry about the thatched roof leaking into the bread bin. Hemp is so deeply a part of daily life that people barely notice it. You sleep on a hemp-stuffed mattress. You wake up to a breakfast of hemp seeds. You walk through the mud in hemp-woven shoes. They promise to be supportive, but mostly just deliver dampness. You mend your fishing net with strong hemp twine. You mutter to yourself every time it gets caught on a sunken boot. The only thing in your life not improved by hemp is your hair. After a full day spent wearing a hemp hat, it often resembles a sheep that has just lost a friendly wager. Of course, not all uses of hemp were strictly for practical reasons. Some monks swore by hemp tea as a powerful remedy. They used it for everything from headaches to persistent thoughts about cheese. The recipe involved steeping the leaves in boiling water. You would add a bit of honey, and then you would pretend not to notice if the drink made your chanting slower, or if it made your evening prayers a little more philosophical. Local healers often prescribed hemp poultices for rashes and aches, or they would use them just to keep fussy children quiet during Mass. Apply a generous amount, they would say. This was the medieval way of saying, I have no idea if this works, but it has not killed anyone yet. Modern life might have turned hemp into a debate, but in the Middle Ages it was simply everywhere. It was doing everything all of the time. If you are a peasant, hemp is your closest friend. If you are a noble, you probably prefer silk. Unless, of course, it is laundry day. Then hemp will do just fine for the servants' towels. At the end of another long day, you climb into bed. You rest your head on your hemp-stuffed pillow. You realize that life is a little rough and a little itchy, but it is also possibly more relaxed than you remember. You reach for a drink to quench your thirst. The good news is that it is not water. The bad news is that your small beer has more things floating in it than a public pond. Yes, everyone in the village drinks beer. This includes the children. They drink it all day, every day. The beer is weak, but after 9 mugs, the word weak is just a theory. Welcome to the world of medieval hydration. This is a world where drinking water is considered a very risky activity. Beer is always the much safer option. If you are picturing a foamy golden lager in a frosty glass, please stop right there. Medieval beer is basically liquid bread. It is unfiltered and unpasteurized. It is so chunky you could probably use it to repair a stone wall. This small beer is the everyday beverage for medieval people. It is called small not because of its size, but because it is weak. Think of a beer with the alcohol content of a slice of rye bread. You drink it not for celebration, but because the only alternative is water from a stream. The same stream where the local sheep hold their annual swimming competitions. Small beer is brewed by boiling questionable water with malt. Hops were added if you were lucky. Then it was left to ferment until the entire house smelled like bread and feet. The final product is a drink that is just alcoholic enough to kill some germs, but it is not strong enough to make you forget your morning chores. Everyone drinks it, everyone. Children have small beer with their breakfast. Farmers sip it in the fields. Monks use it to wash down their simple meals. There was even a mid-morning beer break in medieval Europe. It was the original office coffee pot, only with more floating bits and less quiet desperation. The wealthy and the clergy received slightly better beer, but it was still a long way from the craft brews of the modern age. Let's talk more about those floating bits. Medieval brewing was more of an art than a science. The main ingredient was often whatever was available. Unfiltered meant that there was a generous amount of grain husks. You might also find bits of straw and the occasional dead insect. If you found a piece that was unusually crunchy, just remember that extra fiber is good for you. The average person's immune system was very robust. A little extra nutrition was not a major concern. But the real danger was not the floating bits. It was the unintended side effects. Small beer was supposed to be safe, but after your 3rd or 4th mug, you felt a little more relaxed than you had planned. After 9 mugs, weak started to feel suspiciously like tipsy. Before you knew it, you were singing folk songs with the local chickens. You might even attempt to invent a medieval conga line. The morning after, you would wake up on a pile of hay. Your mouth would feel like the bottom of a leather boot. You would have a faint memory of challenging a goose to a staring contest. Of course, sometimes the beer was not small at all. On feast days, or during a good harvest, things got a little stronger. That is when you truly began to understand why medieval people had so many saints. Someone had to pray for the health of your liver. The stronger ale was saved for celebrations. It was for religious holidays. Or, let's be honest, it was for any Tuesday. Any day when the weather was slightly less awful than usual. The brewing process itself was a community event. Entire families would gather to stir, strain, and taste the product. Someone always claimed their secret was adding more hops. Someone else believed it was the magical yeast living in the roof. In reality, brewing was about survival. You drank beer because it was much safer than drinking water. It was more filling than soup. And frankly, it made the daily medieval struggle a little bit easier to bear. So the next time you sip a cold, filtered lager, raise your glass to your ancestors. They were the survivors of the chunky, floaty, and suspiciously lively world of small beer. Because in medieval times, you drank to stay alive. And if you got a little tipsy along the way, well, that was just an added bonus. Cheers to making it through another day. One lumpy mug at a time. If you thought wine was only for the nobility, think again. Monasteries are busy flavoring their homemade wine. They use everything from sweet honey to hallucinogenic herbs. Congratulations. You are now drinking what might be the first edible of the Middle Ages. Let us be very clear about something. In the medieval world, wine is never just wine. It is not always even made from grapes. Sometimes it is whatever was left in the cellar, the result of last year's failed cider experiment. The nobility might have clear, sweet wine from France, but for most people, wine was an adventure. It was an experiment in liquid courage and dental hygiene. It was also a path to a strange kind of religious enlightenment. Take a walk through a typical medieval monastery. You will see rows of sun-drenched vines snaking across the hillsides. They are tended by monks who have spent their morning praying. They have also spent their morning wrestling geese out of the grape barrels. But the real magic is happening down in the cellar. Their brother, Bernard, is busy improving this year's vintage. He adds a handful of whatever is growing in the monastery garden. He uses honey for sweetness. He adds lavender for mental clarity. And he includes wormwood for, well, whatever wormwood is supposed to do. Apart from giving you strange visions and the desire to write poetry about clouds, every monastery has its own secret recipe. Some monks insist on soaking rose petals in the wine barrels. Others swear by the power of poppy seeds. A few even claim that a pinch of wild mushrooms will open a doorway to holy wisdom. The line between a sacred tradition and an accidental psychedelic experiment is alarmingly thin. The result is a drink that is part communion and part fever dream, and entirely medieval. But it is not just the monks who get creative with their wine. Apothecaries and village-wise women have been infusing their own creations. They use everything from common thyme to wild hemp. Each special blend is designed to solve a specific medieval problem. Do you have a headache? Here is a cup of wine with willow bark. Do you suffer from insomnia? Try adding a dash of henbane. Just do not make any plans for the next 3 days. Do you have a bad mood? Elderflower honey and a splash of something mysterious will put a smile on your face. Or at the very least, it will put a smile on the neighbor's goat. And then there is the taste. Medieval wine experts would call it robust. A glass might have notes of plum and earth. It might also have a suspicious aftertaste of medicinal roots. Sometimes the wine sparkles due to natural fermentation. Sometimes it fizzes because of whatever Brother Bernard dropped in it by accident. If you are lucky, the honey will cover up most of the other flavors. If you are unlucky, you will discover why the phrase acquired taste was invented. It was probably created by someone on their third cup of monastic wine. Of course, nothing says celebration. Cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg are added. These spices are worth more than your entire life's savings. For good measure, a shot of homegrown herbs is also included. The entire village lines up to get a taste of this special drink. By sundown, half the town is dancing around the maypole. The other half is lying under it. They are peacefully contemplating the meaning of sheep. But be careful. Moderation is not a well-known medieval virtue. After a few goblets, the line between a holy vision and the wall singing to you gets very blurry. Monks have written entire books on the meaning of life after a strong batch. They would wake up the next day to find they had written 40 pages. The topic would be the importance of not trusting ducks. And if you think children were spared, you are mistaken. Water was always a gamble. Small beer was not always available. So it was not uncommon for children to get a watered-down glass of wine with their dinner. This explains a lot about medieval bedtime stories. Most of them end with someone turning into a carrot, or being chased by a very angry loaf of bread. So the next time you enjoy a carefully selected glass of wine, remember that in medieval times, it was not just a simple drink. It was a risk. It was a form of medicine. It was a party trick. And occasionally it was the beginning of a long and confusing conversation with the family cat. Cheers to history's most adventurous winemakers. Drink up, if you dare. The village healer hands you a very suspicious-looking root. He tells you to chew on it for courage. Mandrake and henbane are the herbal equivalent of playing Russian roulette. You are gambling with your own nervous system. The side effects may include having strange visions. They might include feelings of euphoria, or they might include the sudden belief that you are a goose. Let us set the scene. You are feeling a deep medieval anxiety. Perhaps you are about to propose marriage to the baker's daughter, or maybe you have to face the local lord. You accidentally invented sourdough soup with last night's bread. Either way, you find yourself in the healer's smoky cottage. It is filled with bundles of drying herbs. A cat with one eye stares at you. The shelves are stacked with bottles that rattle when you breathe too loudly. The healer offers you a choice. Do you want courage? Do you want sleep? Or do you want to see the truth that lies behind the moon? You are not entirely sure what that last option means, but you are already here, and the cat is still staring. You take the root and begin to chew. Mandrake and henbane have legendary reputations. They are half medicine and half myth, and they are completely unpredictable. Mandrake roots, for example, look disturbingly like small humans. They come with many folk legends. The instructions for harvesting them sound like a practical joke. You must harvest them at midnight. You must pull the root from the ground, and you must try to avoid its terrifying scream. If you think that is just a local superstition, imagine pulling a root from the ground that shrieks loudly, so loudly that the entire village starts praying for rain. Just in case the sound was actually a demon. Chewing on a mandrake root is a gamble at best. In very small doses, it might numb a toothache. It might help you sleep. Or it might give you the courage to ask your boss for a raise of 2 extra turnips. In larger doses, however, things get strange. You might spend the evening talking to the fireplace. You could become convinced it is the ghost of your great-aunt Mildred, or you might wake up 2 days later. A note would be pinned to your tunic. It would simply say, "Never again," from the chickens. Henbane, meanwhile, is the original wild card. The leaves are sticky. The flowers are a cheerful yellow, and the effects are completely unpredictable. One minute you are dozing peacefully, the next you are convinced you are a Viking warrior on a raid, or you believe you have invented time travel using only a wooden spoon. Local doctors sometimes make henbane tea for nervous patients, but they will never drink it themselves. A cup for you, a prayer for me, as the old saying goes. These hallucinogenic herbs are the medieval multi-tool for every occasion. You can numb the pain of a broken arm with mandrake wine. You can seek a vision for the next harvest with a henbane pipe. If you have a rash that will not go away, just rub a poultice on it. Then hope you do not hallucinate a second rash in the process. The church is very suspicious of these practices, of course. Anything that makes you see visions is very close to heresy, or it is considered demonic influence. Use too much, and you will find yourself in trouble. You might receive an exorcism. Or worse, you might get a stern lecture from Father Bernard. He still has not forgiven you for sleeping through the Easter Mass. Still, healers continue to use these herbs. They use them mostly because despite the obvious risks, nothing else in their medicine cabinet actually works. It is the 14th century. What else are you going to do? Wait for modern painkillers to be invented. Sometimes these potent herbs even appear at parties. Small doses are hidden in sweet honey cakes, or they are sprinkled into the special occasion wine. The after effects are lively and unpredictable. They are sometimes the highlight. There is nothing quite like watching an entire village suddenly believe the maypole is a giant snake. They will then stage an impromptu dance battle for their survival. As the effects slowly wear off, you find yourself back in the healer's cottage. You have only a mild headache and a vague memory of challenging a duck to a debate. The topic was medieval politics. The duck was surprisingly well informed. Mandrake, henbane, and their strange friends are the ultimate gamble. You could end up free of pain. You could become newly courageous. Or you could spend the night as the world's first goose lawyer. In medieval times, that is just another Tuesday. Congratulations. You have survived your time in the hallucinogenic herb club. Do not worry. Your secret is safe with us. The cat has seen much, much worse. Step inside a medieval apothecary shop. You will find shelves lined with dried plants, powders, and bottles. The labels might read unicorn horn or blessed thistle. Nobody is entirely sure what is actually inside these containers. But everything goes down a little easier if you mix it with wine. The moment you step through the door, you are hit by a smell. It can only be described as botanical panic. The air is thick with the scent of rosemary and musty old books, and a hint of something that might have once been a goat. The apothecary is a person who always looks like they are hiding something, because they usually are. He welcomes you with a nod. He immediately offers you a sample of a liquid that stings your nose. It might be glue, it might be medicine, it might be both. Every surface in the shop is covered in mysterious jars and bundles of herbs. Some are filled with common ingredients, like sage and mint. Others are labeled in a very formal Latin. This is a language the apothecary barely understands himself, but he uses it anyway to impress his customers. It also helps to hide the fact that dragon's tongue is just a very ugly carrot. There are roots bundled together with old pieces of string. There are dried mushrooms that look like props from a haunted puppet show. And there are dozens of powders in various shades of danger. And what about the pills? There are no pills. There are just lumps of pressed powder. They are rolled in honey, or they are stuck inside a piece of cheese. This is to trick both children and grown men into swallowing them. Are there capsules? Not unless you count a snail shell filled with a mysterious goo. The customer service is very enthusiastic, but completely unscientific. The apothecary is equal parts pharmacist and bartender, and occasionally he is a marriage counselor. You describe your symptoms to him. He instantly launches into a series of recommendations. These suggestions would terrify any modern physician. Are you coughing? Here is a syrup made from violets. It also contains the tiniest bit of opium. It will definitely stop the cough. Do you have itchy joints? Rub this ointment of mystery on your knees, and be sure to avoid any strong winds for a few days. Are you having trouble sleeping? Try this special sleep draught. It is made with valerian and poppy. It has just enough honey to disguise the awful taste of regret. But it is not just human customers who keep the business running. Villagers arrive with their sick chickens. They bring in their limping pigs. They even bring cats with mysterious injuries. The apothecary reaches for his universal balm. It is a concoction that smells like onions and despair. Does it actually work? Sometimes, maybe. There is always a jug of wine nearby. You can wash down the disappointment if the results are not what you hoped for. Of course, the most expensive items are the ones with the wildest names. Unicorn horn powder. It is definitely not just ground up parsnip. There are also dried basilisk scales. They look a lot like fish skin, and you can buy mermaid tears. They are probably just plain salt water if you are lucky. The richer the customer is, the wilder the claim becomes. Nobles want to believe they are swallowing something rare and magical, so the apothecary keeps a special shelf just for them. It is carefully dusted, and it is positioned at eye level for the maximum effect. But let us be honest, most of the real business happens under the counter. For every headache or heartbreak, there is a special remedy tucked away in the back. These remedies are sometimes illegal. Sometimes they are just stronger than what the church would recommend. The apothecary knows which villagers want a quiet cure for insomnia. He sells them opium syrup. He knows whose nerves are frayed before the festival. He offers them a calming hemp tea. And he knows which monks need a little inspiration for next Sunday's sermon. For them, he has a special poppy wine. Discretion is a key part of the service. The only real rule is to not mention it during confession. And you definitely should not tell Father Bernard about the saint's blessing. It is a special potion with enough herbs to inspire holy visions, and possibly even time travel. Still, the real secret of the apothecary shop is not what is on the shelves. It is the general attitude. A little bit of hope, a little bit of risk, and the firm belief that life is much easier if you just add honey and wine to everything. As you leave the shop, you are clutching a small pouch of blessed thistle. You also have a stern warning not to take more than a pinch. You realize that you have survived another trip to the medieval pharmacy. Whether you are actually cured or just distracted by the strange taste, it is all part of the adventure. And if nothing else, you have a great story to tell. You also probably have a slightly magical burp to share at the next feast. Do you need surgery? Do not worry. The barber surgeon is here with his trusty soporific sponge. It is soaked in opium and hemlock. Just breathe in deeply, and try not to think about how much your chances of survival depend on whether he had a good lunch. Let us set the scene. You have managed to injure yourself in a classic medieval way. Maybe you got into a fight with a goose, or perhaps you just tripped over the family pig again. Either way, you have a broken limb, or an infected boil, or a mysterious swelling that looks like it is about to develop its own personality. This is not a world of clean clinics and numbing injections. It is just you, a wooden bench, and a man who owns more knives than he has teeth. The barber surgeon gets his name because he will trim your beard. He will also lance your abscess, and he will remove your appendix, all in the same afternoon. He is the medieval multitasker that nobody asked for. He enters the room and rolls up his sleeves with a dramatic flair. His tools are laid out on a stained wooden table. There is a rusty saw, there is a pair of tongs, there is a hammer for bone encouragement, and then there is the star of the show, the soporific sponge. The concept behind it is both simple and terrifying. You take a sponge, you soak it in the strongest substances you can find. Opium for the pain, hemlock for a sense of calm, a splash of vinegar to keep things relatively fresh, and maybe some wild lettuce just for good luck. When the time comes, you are instructed to inhale deeply from the sponge. That is the theory anyway. In reality, it smells like a compost pile that has been set on fire. But you are desperate enough to try almost anything at this point. You ask, will this make me sleep? The barber surgeon just winks at you. He says, let's find out together. His confidence is either very reassuring, or it is a clear sign that you should quickly update your will. Medieval anesthesia is never a guarantee. Sometimes the soporific sponge works like a charm. You drift off to a dreamless place, a place where nobody is asking you to hold still while they remove your toenail. Sometimes it does not work at all. You just get a little dizzy. You forget why you agreed to this procedure in the first place. If you are truly unlucky, you get a bit of both. You doze off just long enough to be woken by the sound of your own leg being sawn off. The effects are always unpredictable. They depend on the mix of herbs and the skill of your barber surgeon, and whether the local apothecary was sober when he prepared the mixture. The side effects range from mild drowsiness to vivid visions of dancing chickens. In some rare cases, patients begin reciting psalms in Latin. This is despite the fact that they only know 4 Latin words, all of which mean help. In the background, the local priest is probably praying for your soul, and the neighbors are peeking in through the window. They want to see if you are about to provide the day's entertainment. Pain management is an experiment at best. The soporific sponge is just one part of the medieval pain relief toolkit. This also includes biting down hard on a leather strap, or drinking yourself into total oblivion, or simply holding hands with your most emotionally supportive goat. Once the procedure begins, time itself loses all meaning. You drift in and out of a thick fog. This fog is sometimes from the sponge, and sometimes it is from the shock. The barber surgeon hums a little tune to steady his own nerves, or perhaps to steady yours. At some point, you are fairly sure you complimented the sponge on its charming personality. When it is all over, you wake up wrapped in linen. You are sweating and slightly confused, and you are grateful that you are still in one piece. Recovery involves a lot of rest, and a lot of wine, and whatever herbal concoctions the village healer can create. If you are lucky, the pain will fade, the wounds will heal, and you will have an impressive new scar to show off at the next village feast. If you are unlucky, Well, there is always the priest on speed dial. He can be there quickly for the last rites. So the next time you see a simple sponge, give it a small nod of respect. In the Middle Ages, it was not just for cleaning dishes. It was your best chance at not remembering the worst day of your entire life. And that is what passed for anesthesia back then, sort of. It is a feast night in the Lord's Hall. The food is suspiciously spicy. The drinks have an extra kick to them, and someone has just sprinkled something into the roast. It makes everyone start giggling at the wall. No one will admit what is in the food, but everyone is feeling very relaxed. Let us set the scene. Tapestries hang on every wall. Torches flicker and cast long shadows. The floor is covered in fresh rushes. They almost masked the smell of last week's entertainment. The long tables groan under the weight of the food. There are pies and game birds. There are sweet cakes and bread that can also be used as a weapon. Servants hurry back and forth with trays. The air is thick with anticipation, and there is a suspicious hint of something herby coming from the kitchen. Tonight's party is not your average gathering. This is a noble banquet, which means that every dish is a display of wealth. Spices are imported from faraway lands. Honey is drizzled over almost everything. There are at least 3 courses dedicated to showing off. They show how many peacocks your lord can stuff with smaller birds, and then call it an appetizer. And yet, the real show is not the food, or even the jugglers. No, it is the rise of the exotic powders. What are exotic powders, you ask? Well, nobody is entirely sure. Sometimes they are simply spices, genuine cinnamon, black pepper, or nutmeg. These spices are worth more than a peasant's wages for an entire year. Other times, they are something a little more recreational. They are imported from the Middle East, or they are traded in the dark back alleys of coastal towns. These are the powders and resins that promise to liven up any party. They might occasionally make the tapestry start singing Gregorian chants. The kitchen staff are all in on the secret. A little sprinkle in the wine, a small dash on the roasted meat, a tiny pinch in the candied figs, and suddenly the conversation becomes much more interesting. The Lord's cousin begins reciting poetry to a potted plant. The head cook becomes convinced that the bread can talk, and frankly, after 3 hours next to the hot fire, it probably can. Someone starts a rumor that the jester's hat is full of bees. This immediately sets off a spirited game. The game is called Do Not Let the Bees Touch the Cheese. And it is not just the kitchen staff. The apothecary is eager to keep his best customers happy. He slips into the feast with a pouch of something special. It is labeled Persian Delight or Venetian Sparkle. If he is feeling particularly dramatic, he might call it the dust of paradise. Nobody bothers to read the ingredient list. Everyone just wants a good story to tell at breakfast the next morning. As the night continues, inhibitions slide away. They disappear faster than the Lord's favorite drinking cup. The musicians switch from polite music to loud folk tunes. The dancing turns from elegant and formal to wild and experimental. At least 3 nobles are found giggling under the main table. They are convinced that the floor tiles are moving. At some point, a debate begins. The question is, who can eat the spiciest pigeon? It ends when the steward, red-faced and teary-eyed, declares himself the king of the fire tongues. He then demands a parade for himself in the garden. But the most telling sign of a successful party is this. Nobody is talking about politics. The old rivalries and the land disputes are temporarily forgotten. They are replaced by a shared hallucination of a dancing goose. For one rare and wonderful night, everyone in the hall is united. They are united by confusion, curiosity, and the urgent need for more wine. Of course, the morning will bring some regrets. The Lord will wonder why there are turnip carvings all over the main staircase. The steward will be found fast asleep in the dove shelter. The apothecary will quietly remind the kitchen to use half as much next time. No one will admit to anything. It is an unspoken rule. What happens at the feast stays at the feast, except for the story of the goose. The goose will be telling this story for weeks. So the next time you are invited to a noble's party, keep a close eye on the spice rack. Watch out for the jester's hat, and maybe be careful with the exotic powders. In the medieval world, dinner could be an adventure, and dessert could be a full-blown vision quest. The returning crusaders brought home more than just bad armor tans. They introduced Europe to hashish, a concentrated cousin of the cannabis plant. It was rumored to turn even the grumpiest knight into a philosopher, or at least into someone who no longer cared about bathing regularly. Picture it. The year is 1192. You are standing in the village square watching Sir Geoffrey return from the Holy Land. His horse is somehow missing 3 of its shoes. His armor is rustier than your memory of your own childhood. He has a 1,000-yard stare. It suggests he has either seen the face of God, or he accidentally ate the wrong stew at a roadside inn. Tied to his saddle among his broken swords, and a suspiciously well-fed goat, is a bag of something sticky and fragrant, a souvenir from lands that are far, far away. Sir Geoffrey is much quieter these days. It is not just the trauma from seeing the inside of a Saracen dungeon. His squire whispers that the master has discovered contemplation. This sounds very noble and profound, until you spot him sitting by the duck pond. He is stroking his beard and pondering the deep meaning of pond scum, the secret to this newfound peace, hashish. It is a pressed resin from the cannabis plant. It was carefully tucked into crusader baggage. It was placed alongside holy relics, dried figs, and a haunting inability to keep track of one's own socks. Hashish is not just a substance, it is a conversation starter. The first time Sir Geoffrey shares it, he is holding court in the great hall. He is spinning tales of distant lands and mysterious herbs. He speaks of nights spent under strange stars. The local priest tries to intervene, but he only finds Sir Geoffrey offering him a mysterious brown prayer aid. By the end of the night, the priest is preaching. His topic is the theological significance of ducks. Half the village is suddenly convinced that maybe, just maybe, God is shaped like a turnip. Soon hashish becomes the original medieval import craze. Nobles are always eager for a taste of the exotic. They invite crusaders to their dinner parties. Hashish-infused cakes are passed around. They are served alongside spiced wine and even spicier stories. Nobody quite knows how much to use, so every single meal becomes an experiment. Sometimes it is just a subtle lift in mood. Everyone is more cheerful. The music sounds sweeter. The Lord forgets to tax turnips for a whole afternoon. Sometimes it is complete chaos. By the time dessert is served, the steward is composing poetry to his own shoe, and a knight has challenged a tapestry to a duel. For the lower classes, hashish is more of a rumor than a reality. It is a tale traded in taverns, or a secret shared in dark corners. But the idea of it spreads quickly. There is something out there that can make you feel lighter. It can make you feel softer. It can even make you feel a little bit magical, if only for a single evening. The local wise woman is soon offering crusaders honey balls at the market. She promises relief from everything, from a simple toothache to a heavy spirit, which is medieval, for I have seen too many winters and not enough good meals. There is also the practical side to consider. Medieval life is very hard. After a day of mucking out stables, or plowing rocky fields, and constantly dodging the tax collector, a little bit of hashish goes a long way. The village carpenter swears it makes his back pain completely vanish. The blacksmith claims it inspires him to invent better horseshoes. He has not actually invented any yet, but he feels much better about the possibility. Even the cook is on the verge of a breakdown. She sneaks a small amount into the evening stew, just to see if it will finally make the children take a nap. Of course, there are some side effects to consider. Hashish is blamed for at least 3 impromptu midnight pilgrimages. It has caused 2 accidental marriages, and it started a trend in philosophical barnyard debates that nobody can quite explain. The local authorities try to crack down on its use, but it is hard to police something you cannot pronounce. It is even harder when half of your guards are napping behind the pigsty. In the end, hashish becomes just another part of the medieval landscape, a little taste of the wider world. It is wrapped in mystery, laughter, and a healthy dose of not caring. You no longer worry about how long it has been since you last changed your tunic. Sir Geoffrey still sits by the pond. He occasionally solves the meaning of life. Then he forgets it again moments later. And as for you, you realize something important. Surviving medieval Europe is much easier when you can laugh at ducks and ignore the taxman and see the world with slightly softer edges, even if it is just for one afternoon. You open your eyes to the harsh medieval sun. You instantly regret every single decision from the night before. Your mouth tastes like a compost heap. Your head is pounding violently. Someone swears you tried to invent time. Travel using only turnip wine. Congratulations. You are the latest victim of the original hangover, the medieval edition. There is straw stuck to your tunic. A duck is staring at you with silent judgment. You have a vague sense that you owe someone an apology. It is possibly a goat. Your memories of the feast are very foggy, but the evidence of your actions is all around you. There is half a loaf of bread under your pillow. There is a mysterious stain shaped like the Holy Roman Empire on your shirt. You can also hear the faint sound of someone snoring in the chimney. Let us be honest. Hangovers in the Middle Ages are not for the faint of heart. Modern medicine might offer you painkillers, or greasy breakfasts, or the gentle reassurance of clean running water. But here you have only 3 options. You can drink cold well water. You can try herbal cures dreamed up by the village wise woman. Or you can hope that you will be reincarnated as a hedgehog, so you will never have to face the daylight again. First comes the medieval headache. It is a special kind of pain. It feels like your skull is being used to grind wheat. This is for next week's porridge. The sunlight is your mortal enemy. Someone opens the shutters. The room instantly transforms into a blinding laser show. You groan and pull a wool blanket over your face. This does little to help. The blanket smells like damp sheep and last winter's plague. Next is the thirst. Nothing says bad choices like a mouth that is drier than the Lord's sense of humor. You crawl towards a wooden mug of small beer. Ironically, it is still safer than the water. The beer is lukewarm. It tastes vaguely of hay and disappointment. It also still contains the occasional floating object, but desperate times call for desperate measures. You drink it deeply. You mentally prepare yourself to face whatever comes next. Enter the village wise woman. She appears at your side with what seems like supernatural timing. She takes one long look at you. She nods her head sagely. "Ah, the morning after the feast," she says. "I have just the thing for that." You are handed a mug of her secret recipe. It is a bracing mix of nettles and wild honey. It also has a few drops of whatever is left at the bottom of her special herbs jar. You swallow the mixture. You instantly wonder if she is trying to cure you, or if she is just inventing a new form of torture. Your vision blurs for a moment, but at least your headache takes a back seat. It is replaced by whatever is now happening in your stomach. Then comes the guilt. It is not the modern kind where you sheepishly send a text message. It is the medieval kind. It is public and it is communal. At least 3 of your neighbors stop by. They remind you of your actions from the night before. You challenged the blacksmith to a foot race. You lost the race to his horse. You proposed marriage to a large sack of barley. You sang the entire book of Psalms. The tune was "Row, row, row your boat." Each story is worse than the last one. The only thing you remember for certain. The turnip wine tasted like hope and regret mixed together. You make your way outside for some fresh air. It mostly smells like livestock and mud. You attempt to regain some of your lost dignity. The chickens all avoid you. The dog rolls its eyes at you. Even the village priest offers you a sympathetic pat on the shoulder. He then quietly suggests penance just in case. There is no aspirin. There is no brunch. There is just a lingering feeling that you survived, barely. By midday, you are starting to feel better. A bit of bread helps. Another mug of beer also helps. And you make a solemn promise to yourself. You will never do this again. This is a vow as fragile as a medieval roof in a heavy rainstorm. Life goes on. You will return to your daily work. You will avoid the wise woman's herbal hangover cure. And you will politely refuse all future invitations to drink with the blacksmith, at least until the next feast day. So if you ever wake up in your own bed with a headache and with nothing more dangerous in your system than last night's tea, take a moment to feel grateful. Because in the Middle Ages, surviving a hangover was proof. It proved you were tough enough to survive anything, including your own curiosity about turnip wine. The village midwife offers you her best sleeping draught. It is 1 part poppy juice and 2 parts wild lettuce, and a small dash of wine. Do not ask about the side effects of this mixture. In the morning, you might wake up in your own bed, or you might wake up in the neighbor's cowshed. Let us be honest. Medieval sleep is already a difficult proposition at best. Your mattress is stuffed with old straw. Your only blanket smells like a wet goat. Your roommate is a rooster who does not understand the concept of personal space. If you are lucky, you will drift off to sleep. The gentle lullaby will be the sound of rain on a leaky roof. If you are unlucky, you will be serenaded by your neighbor's son. He is practicing his bagpipes at midnight, and there is the eternal scratching of fleas planning their next attack. It is no wonder you cannot get to sleep. That is where the local midwife comes in to help. She is the unofficial town expert. She knows all about birth, death, and bedtime. Her remedies are legendary. Sometimes they are famous for working. Sometimes they are famous for what happens when they do not. She takes her special craft very seriously. She rolls out a collection of bottles and jars. They have labels like Dream Dew and Night's Embrace. One simply says, "Try at your own risk." Her methods are less science and more folk tradition meets controlled chaos. You tell her you have not slept for 3 nights. She nods her head thoughtfully. She sprinkles a few poppy seeds into a mug. She follows up with some wild lettuce, an herb whose only proven effect is making salads tastes like disappointment. Then comes the wine. It is splashed into the mug with a confident hand, the hand of someone who knows there are worse things than tipsy sleepwalking. She hands you the mug with a twinkle in her eye. "Drink this and then count some sheep," she says. You wonder if she means you should count literal sheep, or the ones that occasionally wander through your open front door. You take a small sip of the mixture. It tastes like a bad salad mixed with cough syrup. There is also a small hint of hope. 5 minutes later, your eyelids are feeling very heavy. You are starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, you will sleep through the entire night, except this is medieval medicine. Side effects are not so much possible as they are inevitable. There is a good chance you will wake up feeling disoriented. You might be clutching a turnip. You might be halfway through reciting a prayer you do not remember learning. Sometimes you will dream of flying. Sometimes you will dream about tax collectors. Sometimes you dream you are being chased through the village. The pursuer is a talking sausage. In your groggy state, this feels more real than the actual livestock. Still, anything is better than lying awake in the dark, listening to the wind rattle the shutters, and your own joints crack with every toss and turn. And the midwife is not your only source for sleep aids. The apothecary sells his dormouse tonic. It is a concoction that claims to quiet the soul, but it mostly just quiets your stomach. The village wise woman swears by her own recipe. It is a mix of nettle, tea, honey, and a few drops of something she calls the moon's blessing. The last person who tried it woke up the next day. He was completely convinced that he was a bishop. Some remedies are less about plants and more about strange rituals. You might place a shoe under your pillow or hang rosemary over your door and make sure you never ever look a weasel in the eye before bedtime. Superstition is very strong, especially on sleepless nights. Your grandmother will tell you to drink hot milk. Your uncle will recommend a shot of very strong ale. Your cousin insists you just need to work harder in the fields, which explains why he has not slept soundly since last Easter. The truth is that medieval people will try anything for a good night's rest. And who can really blame them? Between the lumpy beds, the unpredictable weather, and the nightly chorus of livestock, rest is a true luxury. So, if a poppy-laced potion helps you sleep even a little, you will risk the occasional strange morning. You might wake up with straw in your hair, and a pig sleeping next to you like a big spoon. As the sun rises, you stagger awake. Whether in your own home, or the neighbor's barn, or somewhere in between, you are just grateful you got a few hours of peace. Sleep, after all, is the original medieval miracle cure, and in a world this exhausting, you will take every single drop you can get. You wander through the monastery garden. Brother Thomas lists all the plants that bring a sense of peace. By peace, he actually means a nap so deep you might accidentally skip forward to next Wednesday. It is a brisk morning in the cloister, and you are here for only one reason. You want sleep, or at least the monastic version of it. Brother Thomas greets you with a serene smile. He has the kind of energy that suggests he has already had 2 mugs of herbal clarity tea. He gestures to the orderly rows of plants. There is sage and valerian. There are poppies and a few mysterious greens. The abbot insists these are for spiritual purposes only. You are not sure what that means exactly, but the monastery's cat is always napping under the valerian plant. You are starting to suspect it has found true enlightenment. Monks are the undisputed champions of medieval medicine. They read books and they write, and they experiment with herbs. Sometimes their experiments are successful. Sometimes they are less so. Every brother in the monastery has his own specialty. Brother Peter is a genius with digestive problems. Brother Martin brews the best and strongest ales, and Brother Thomas, well, his real talent lies in creating what he calls the blessed sleep. If you mention you are having trouble resting, Thomas's face lights up. He immediately offers you a tour of the garden. This tour comes complete with a lecture. He explains every plant's heavenly virtues. He tells you a story about that one time he made a mistake. He accidentally put half the monastery to sleep during evening prayers. Secret recipes can be found in the scriptorium. Tucked between the pages of religious texts are little notes. How to make a calming tea, the best ratio of poppy to wild lettuce, and when to add honey for mercy's sake. The brothers swear by the power of their mixtures. Valerian root for anxiety, chamomile for headaches, and poppy for when even the abbot cannot get through morning chants without yawning. Sometimes they blend everything into a single draught. A draught so potent it could put a bishop into a spiritual coma. And it is not just for sleep. Monastic medicine covers everything, from simple coughs to serious colic. Do you need an appetite? Fennel and mint will help. Are your knees sore from too much kneeling in prayer? St. John's wort with a touch of blessed oil is the answer. Are you having trouble with melancholia, which is medieval for life is hard and everything hurts? Brother Thomas brews a special wine. It is so sweet and herby you forget what you were sad about, though you also forget your own name for about 20 minutes. Preparation is a sacred ritual for the monks. The brothers harvest each plant at dawn. They always say a prayer. Sometimes they sing a hymn for good luck. The herbs are then dried, chopped, and stored in labeled jars. Their many remedies filled the monastery with earthy, soothing scents. These smells almost cover the scent of the scriptorium's ink, and the kitchen's endless supply of lentil stew. Of course, word of their skills gets out. Soon villagers are knocking at the monastery gate at all hours. They are hoping for a sip of a secret elixir. Or, failing that, they hope for a quick nap on a sun-warmed cloister bench. The monks never turn anyone away. They are sworn to help the community, after all. But they do keep the very best recipes for themselves. There is a rumor that Brother Thomas once invented a draught. It was so powerful that the abbot lost an entire week. The garden also gained 3 new mysterious statues during that time. You accept a small bottle of peaceful rest from him. The instructions are simple. Sip this before bedtime. Do not operate any plows or debate the priest. Brother Thomas gives you a gentle warning. Too much and you will miss next Sunday's sermon, he says. Too little, and you will hear every rooster in the county. You thank him and slip away quietly. You feel a little lighter, a little drowsier, and you are secretly hoping you wake up somewhere you recognize, in a world full of chaos and war, of famine, plagues, and barnyard insomnia. Monastic medicine is a gentle, leafy oasis. The secret recipes are part science and part faith. They are also part, let's just see what happens. If you are lucky, you will drift off to sleep. You will wake up feeling refreshed. If not, you will have a great story to tell at the next feast. Either way, you will owe Brother Thomas a thank you, and maybe next time a stronger cup of coffee for the abbot. Dinner is being served. The cook's secret ingredient tonight is hemp seed. It is nutritious and it is filling, and if you eat enough of it, it is liable to turn even the hardest medieval bread into a magical experience. Let us set the table. You are hunched over on a three-legged stool. The wobbly wooden table is in front of you. You are staring at a steaming bowl of something. It is mostly turnips and hope. The cook brandishes her ladle like it is a royal scepter. She serves out the daily pottage. She gives you a wink as she does. There is a bit of a surprise in there tonight, she says. You know from grim experience that this could mean anything. It could be a dead fly, or it could be a live one. But tonight feels different. The air smells faintly nutty. The bread, usually a medieval exercise in jaw strength, looks almost inviting. Hemp seed is the star ingredient tonight. In the Middle Ages, it is as close as you will get to a superfood. It is packed with oil, protein, and the faint possibility of daydreams. Hemp seed shows up in almost everything. It is in porridge and in soup. It is in cakes, and even in that infamous loaf of brochure-tooth bread. It is food for the body, and a tiny treat for the mind. On days when there is nothing else to eat, it is what stands between you and an evening spent chewing on boiled shoe leather. The local cook swears by it. She claims that hemp seed can make any meal taste better, though her standards were last seen running away with the town baker. She will grind it into a rough meal for thickening soups. She will sprinkle it over salads. If you can call 2 leaves and a snail a salad, she will also work it into special cakes for feast days. There is even a rumor she once made hemp seed butter, but it was so popular that the Lord ate all of it himself before anyone else could even get a taste. To this day, the servants eye the food pantry with suspicion, especially whenever the Lord starts humming to himself. The true magic, though, is what hemp does to bread. Medieval bread is legendary, but not for the reasons you would want. It is usually very dense and sometimes gritty. It is always a gamble. It could easily double as a building material. Hemp seed, with its natural oils and nutty flavor, softens the loaf just enough so you can break off a piece without risking a dental disaster. The kitchen is suddenly full of grateful sighs. Villagers bite into a loaf of bread that does not bite back. There are, of course, some side effects. Eat enough hemp seed porridge. You will feel a warm sense of well-being. This is only partially caused by your hunger finally subsiding. Some people say it helps to soothe aching muscles. It also calms the spirit after a long day of wrestling with livestock in the mud. Others just appreciate not having to chip their dinner out of a loaf shaped like a rock. There are even whispered stories about the hemp cake served at weddings. The guests are mysteriously cheerful. The bride's mother briefly forgets to complain about everything. The groom declares that the soup is absolutely profound. But the real secret of cannabis in the medieval kitchen is its versatility. On fasting days, when eggs, meat, and even laughter are banned by the church, hemp seed steps in to fill the nutritional gap. It is technically allowed by religious rules. It is thoroughly humble, and unlike some of the other medieval delicacies, it will not make you regret your choices in the morning. The cook stirs it into everything. She is hoping for a nod of approval from the priest and a simple thank you from the Lord, though both are more likely to just ask for a second helping. After dinner, you sit back with a full belly. You have a mild sense of euphoria. It is possible that is just the relief of not having to eat more boiled cabbage. Or maybe it is the hemp gently working its way into your bones. It loosens the knots in your shoulders. It lets you forget for just a moment that you have to get up and do it all again tomorrow. As the candles burn down, you find yourself smiling. Tonight, medieval life tastes almost good. The bread is only slightly dangerous, and everyone is just a little bit happier, thanks to the humble and versatile hemp seed. Tomorrow, the cook will go back to her usual strange experiments. But for now, you can bask in the gentle, nutty afterglow, the best dinner you have had in weeks. Not every medieval lady packs just jewelry in her travel chests. Some of them stash a jar of imported opium. It is for headaches, heartbreaks, and the kind of long banquets. The kind where the lute solo goes on for several hours. Imagine the scene. The castle's great hall is bustling with activity. There are silks, whispered gossip, and the unmistakable smell of questionable poultry. You are a noblewoman. You are dressed in enough linen and velvet to be a walking tapestry. Your dowry chest is your own private treasure vault. Most people would expect to find pearls, or gold, or maybe a few hair ribbons. What they do not know is that nestled beneath the embroidery sits a small and precious jar of opium. It is your secret weapon against the aches and the existential crises of noble life. Life as a lady might sound very grand, but the reality is a never-ending cycle of planning feasts and negotiating dowries, and trying to keep the family's pet falcon from eating the servants. Then there are all the social obligations. Hours spent pretending to care about your cousin's needlepoint. The Lord's hunting stories, which grow larger with every retelling, and banquets that are so long the bread has time to turn stale, then revive itself, then go stale again. So when the headache from your headdress becomes too much to bear, a headdress that weighs as much as a holiday ham, you reach for your hidden jar. The apothecary calls it the spice of the East, but you simply call it survival. A small dab on your tongue, maybe swirled into a bit of honey, and the pounding at your temples fades to a gentle medieval hum. Suddenly, the lute solo does not seem so bad after all. In fact, you are half convinced the lute player is inventing a new genre, a genre called sleepy folk music. But opium is not just for headaches. Medieval heartbreak is a very competitive sport, especially when you discover that your intended husband has the emotional range of a boiled cabbage. Or you find that your marriage contract now includes a flock of geese, a flock you are expected to love as your own children. After suffering through your first heartbreak, you learn very quickly. You see why the older ladies always look so serene during romantic tragedies. They have opium-laced comfort cakes. With a chaser of warm, spiced wine, your heartache is dulled. The drama is muted. The family dinner is actually tolerable. And let us not forget about simple nerves. Noble women are expected to glide gracefully through life, but the reality is more like stumbling through a hallway that is full of overexcited dogs. Banquets are their own special trial by fire. There are endless toasts and poetry recitals, and the ever-present threat of someone unexpectedly bursting into song. You keep your jar of opium close at hand. It is tucked between sachets of lavender and secret love notes you will never send. One spoonful, and you are able to nod along. You can listen to the bishop's speech about piety, while you daydream of a world where you can wear comfortable shoes. Of course, this secret is not quite as secret as you would hope. The castle's staff knows about it. They are very discreet. But you notice the cook's knowing wink when she sees you stir honey into your evening tea, and the maid's understanding smile when you ask for a bit of extra quiet after dinner. Among the noblewomen, opium is an open secret. It is shared during long afternoons in the solar. You trade recipes for headache cures. You share gossip about the latest marriage scandal, and you compare the merits of various imported sleep remedies. It is not all blissful oblivion, of course. Too much opium, and you risk missing the end of the feast. Or worse, waking up halfway through a story. You realize the bard has started his third comic epic. There is also the small matter of the supply chain. Imported opium is very expensive. It is precious, and it is occasionally subject to accusations of witchcraft, especially if the wrong priest happens to find out about it. You keep your special jar well hidden. It is locked away with your other valuable treasures. It is only brought out when life becomes its most overwhelming. So the next time you see a noblewoman staring serenely out of a castle window during yet another tedious evening, remember her jewels may sparkle brightly, but it is the jar of opium in her dowry chest that is what keeps her truly shining in a world of endless banquets and heavy crowns. A little bit of poppy power goes a long, long way. The town alchemist is back at it again. He is promising the secret to eternal youth in a bottle that smells suspiciously like boiled socks. Most medieval elixirs are 90% wishful thinking and 10% things that will absolutely make you see imaginary dragons. Let us set the scene. It is a damp afternoon. You are standing outside the alchemist's rundown hut. You have been lured here by rumors of a new potion, a potion that will grant you the vigor of a stag and the wisdom of King Solomon. You step inside and instantly regret your decision. The air is thick with the aroma of burning herbs and singed hair. And whatever happens when a cabbage goes bad in 3 different languages, vials, flasks, and suspiciously bubbling cauldrons cover every available surface. Each one promises some kind of transformation or enlightenment, or, at the very least, a very colorful rash. The alchemist himself is part scientist and part dreamer. He is also part local hazard. He greets you with wild eyes and soot-stained fingers. He proudly unveils his latest masterpiece. It is a cloudy green potion. It is labeled Elixir of Ageless Wonder. Do not inhale. You are not sure if that last instruction is a warning or if it is an invitation, but you are desperate enough to take the risk. Besides, how much worse can your life possibly get? You already sleep on a bed of straw, and you share your living space with various livestock. The alchemist's ingredients are equal parts exotic and alarming. He waves a dried mandrake root in the air. He adds a pinch of something labeled unicorn dust. You suspect it is just ground-up chicken bone. He finishes with a generous splash of spirits of wine. He assures you that it has all been tested on his apprentice. His apprentice has since taken up beekeeping, and he refuses to talk about what happened last Thursday. With a dramatic flourish, the alchemist pours the concoction into a pewter cup. He then urges you to drink it. It tastes predictably like boiled socks and deep regret. There is an initial rush of warmth in your belly. There is a tingling in your toes. And after a moment, there is a very real sense, the sense that the cat on the windowsill is judging you. And it is judging you in perfect Latin. You ask the alchemist if this is a normal reaction. He nods enthusiastically. He is already scribbling in a notebook about the possible side effects: increased honesty, feline fluency, and mild existential terror, he mutters. But for every miracle that is promised, there are at least 3 unexpected surprises. Sometimes the elixir actually works. Your backache fades away. Your warts mysteriously vanish. And you feel just a little bit more hopeful about life. Other times, you spend the evening completely convinced. You believe you are the rightful heir to the moon, or you start seeing colors that do not have names yet. The alchemist insists these are all necessary steps on the road to true understanding. He then hands you a pamphlet on Hermetic philosophy. You cannot read it because it is upside down. Word spreads fast through the village. Whenever a new elixir is ready, the townsfolk line up outside his hut. They are eager for love potions and beauty tonics, and the ever-popular potion of courage, which suspiciously tastes exactly like very strong ale. Some of them claim to have had miraculous results. The baker's wife has not complained about anything in days. The miller swears that his left leg grew an entire inch. The parish priest is convinced he has finally cracked the secret of the Holy Trinity, though he has since taken a vow of silence. This is possibly for everyone's safety. Of course, accidents do happen. The apprentice's eyebrows have yet to recover. They were singed by the elixir of instant wisdom. And one batch of the potion of flight resulted in 3 bruised egos and a minor roof repair for the church. Nobody blames the alchemist, though. In a world this unpredictable, a little bit of chaos is expected. And if your elixir makes you temporarily believe you are a chicken, at least you have a great story to tell on market day. So as you leave the alchemist's hut, you feel slightly dizzy. You are unsure whether your nose has always been this big. You marvel at the resilience of human hope. In medieval times, alchemy is not just a science. It is the original self-help movement. You try a potion, you cross your fingers, and if you are lucky, the only thing you lose is your sense of skepticism. In a world of endless aches and woes, and many unidentifiable stains, the promise of magic in a bottle is sometimes all you need, even if that magic tastes like boiled socks and wild imagination. The local wise woman hands you a potion. It is meant to ward off evil spirits. The ingredients are herbs and prayers, and possibly a splash of something that smells like last week's beer. You drink it anyway, just in case. Welcome to the medieval countryside, where every village has at least one wise woman, or maybe 3. She is known for her uncanny ability to heal or hex, or simply host a decent tea party. The wise woman's cottage is equal parts apothecary and gossip center. It is also a museum of things you would rather not touch. You walk in seeking relief from a headache or a strange rash. or a vague sense that the neighbor's goose is plotting against you. Instead, you are greeted by shelves overflowing with dried flowers and bundles of something green and prickly, and a row of bottles whose contents range from definitely mint to do not ask. The wise woman always takes her time with a diagnosis. She inspects the palm of your hand. She listens carefully to your pulse. She gives you a long look that says she knows exactly what you did with the baker's daughter last Michaelmas. Then she bustles about her cottage, muttering to herself. She gathers herbs from various jars. She whispers prayers in a language that no one else in the village speaks, unless you count the village priest who pretends not to understand it. Her remedies are always special. Sometimes they work wonders. Sometimes you end up hallucinating that you have finally paid off all your debts. The centerpiece of her healing art is always the potion. It is a cloudy mixture ladled into a chipped mug. It is warm from sitting next to the crackling fire. The aroma of the potion is very complex. Underneath the scent of herbs, there is a certain barnyard zest, and just the faintest whiff of old regret. Drink it while it is still hot, she urges. You obey her command, mostly because you are too afraid of what will happen if you say no. What is in it? The list of ingredients changes on a daily basis. There is mugwort for vivid dreams. There are nettles for aches and pains. There is a dash of rosemary for remembrance. On especially unlucky days, she adds a splash of her courage tonic. This is a homemade beer that has been left out long enough to develop its own personality. And there are prayers. Always there are prayers. They are whispered over the top of the cup. They are traced in the air above it, and sometimes they are written on scraps of parchment. The parchment is then tucked under the mug for extra potency. The wise woman insists this is what keeps the evil spirits away. Though it is entirely possible they just cannot stand the smell. She will tell you stories as you sip the strange brew. She tells you how the potion once helped the smith's wife. She had recovered from a bad case of the wind. Or how old Tom survived his ill-fated romance with the neighbor's pig. This was thanks to a triple dose of her potion. There is a special charm for every complaint. There is a wise proverb for every single doubt. It is not just what you take, she says. It is how you believe it will help. If you squint your eyes, you realize something. This is either very deep wisdom, or it is a polite way for her to say, it is out of my hands now. The results of her treatments vary. Sometimes you wake up the next morning feeling much better. You feel cured and invigorated, and at least for a while you feel less haunted by geese or by guilt. Other times, you simply sleep for 16 hours. You might dream about being crowned the king of turnips. You might wake up with the neighbor's dog. The dog is using your foot as a comfortable pillow. Still, even when the potion does not do exactly what you had hoped, the ritual itself is oddly comforting. The wise woman listens to you. She offers you sympathy. She reminds you that a little faith, plus a lot of bitter herbs, can get you through almost anything. Of course, there are always risks involved. Drink too much of her potion. You may find yourself down at the village pond. You will be attempting to negotiate a peace treaty, a treaty between the frogs and the local children. The priest might grumble about you dabbling in the dark arts, but even he has been spotted seeking a remedy for his recurring sermon hiccups. At the end of the day, you realize the wise woman's true magic. It is not in her strange potions, but it is in her presence. She is a reminder that when life is rough, someone will listen to your problems. They will hand you a cup of something questionable, and they will assure you that everything, evil spirits included, will look much better by sunrise. In medieval times, that is the best medicine of all. It is Saint Swithin's Day. This means the beer is flowing freely, the hemp cakes are fresh from the oven, and you are starting to suspect that half the village is possessed. Possessed by something that was in the soup. Feast days are the medieval answer to a weekend bender. Except, instead of sleeping it off on Sunday, you get to parade through the town. You sing dubious hymns, and you dance badly around the maypole, while the parish priest pretends not to notice you are all on your fourth mug of special ale. It is a time when all the usual rules are put aside. Everyone from the lord to the peasant, and even the livestock lets loose. The preparations for the feast begin at dawn. The cook is a woman of questionable morals, but she has impeccable seasoning skills. She is already baking trays of hemp cakes. She is muttering about last year's incident with the dancing cow. Children are assigned to fetch the firewood. Villagers decorate everything in sight with wildflowers, and with suspiciously sticky ribbons, the brewer hauls out barrels of beer. It is strong enough to clean a wound, or, if you are not careful, it is strong enough to open one. As the village green fills up with people, the atmosphere begins to transform. The air is thick with the smell of roasting meat and boiling stew, and the distant, unmistakable tang of someone accidentally setting the bread on fire. Tables groan under the weight of pies and sausages, and large platters of hemp seed pottage. No one knows exactly who first decided that hemp belonged in everything from biscuits to porridge, but no one is complaining. After a few servings of it, even your neighbors' never-ending complaints about moles start to sound rather philosophical. And the soup. Oh, the soup. Every household in the village brings a different ingredient. This creates a bubbling cauldron of culinary optimism and thinly disguised leftovers. The result is equal parts delicious and dangerous, and for reasons no one can explain. It is also mildly hypnotic. After a few bowls, old Mrs. Barlow is convinced she can speak to crows. The miller tries to teach his donkey how to waltz. The local priest quietly excuses himself to check on the candles. He does this every time someone offers him a second helping. Drinks flow as the sun climbs higher in the sky. Small beer is given to the children, because hydration matters even on feast days. Proper ale is for the grown-ups, and there is a mysterious punch that no one admits to making, but everyone seems to enjoy it. After a while, the songs begin. There are old folk tunes about doomed lovers and victorious saints, and the occasional turnip that saves the day. You find yourself arm in arm with the blacksmith. You are belting out a chorus that grows more enthusiastic and less coherent with every single verse. By mid-afternoon, inhibitions have been left far behind, along with any common sense. Someone starts a sack race using live chickens. The baker and the shepherd stage a lively debate. The topic is the proper way to eat pottage. This debate then devolves into interpretive dance. The children are all covered in mud. At least one cow is wearing a garland of flowers. The mayor is fast asleep under a table. He is muttering about the spirit of Saint Swithin. He is also snoring to the beat of the festival drum. Evening brings a form of fireworks. It is a massive bonfire. There is more singing, and many stories are shared around the flickering flames. The line between a feast and a fever dream begins to blur. Laughter rises into the night air. Even the grumpiest villagers are swept up in the joy. Yes, there is something odd about the soup, and yes, your head will ache horribly tomorrow. But for tonight, you are not just surviving. You are part of a riotous and ridiculous, an utterly unforgettable celebration. As the stars come out, people begin to stumble home. They are wrapped in borrowed cloaks, and in the last lingering warmth of the herbal haze, the village green is littered with wildflower crowns and empty mugs, and the odd sleeping reveler. They are dreaming contentedly of flying cows. The next morning life will return to normal. The festival will be a blurry memory, half real and wholly absurd. But for a brief, herb-scented night, everyone in the village was just a little lighter, a little freer, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit happier for having hugged a tree, and for having sung to the stars. In the world of medieval festivals, that is a victory worth celebrating. You are caught with a bag of suspicious herbs. Is it your medicine, or is it the reason you will be lectured by the priest for 3 hours? The line between legal and illegal substances is thinner than your neighbor's porridge. Let us face it, if you have ever wondered how a war on drugs would look, in a world where most people cannot read, congratulations, you are now living in it. The medieval approach to drug laws is part guesswork, it is part superstition, and it is entirely up to whoever is in charge of the town on any given week. You might be carrying a perfectly legitimate headache remedy, or you might be accused of conspiring with witches. It depends entirely on the weather, and how recently the local constable had a good meal. The average villager relies on herbs for almost everything, for sleep, pain, and heartbreak, and for that strange rash that simply refuses to leave. Folk healers mix up potions from mugwort and poppy and hemp and anything else that does not run away fast enough. Some of these herbs are harmless, others are a one-way ticket to a conversation with St. Peter. But what is actually legal? That depends on the situation. If you are caught with poppy syrup, it is a cure for sleeplessness, unless someone decides it is an instrument of moral decay. If you have hemp seeds, they are just food, unless you add too many of the leaves, and the village reeve's nephew starts seeing double at the maypole dance. The church, unsurprisingly, is very interested in what goes into your body. Some monks are enthusiastic herbalists. They fill their gardens with plants to cure every known ailment. Then they write down the recipes in Latin so that nobody else can understand them. Other clergymen see the devil's handiwork in every single dried root. If you are unlucky, you will be summoned to the church porch. Their Father Bernard will hold up your stash of herbs. He will lecture you on the dangers of foul temptation. The 3-hour version of his lecture includes a musical interlude by the choir. It ends with a stern warning that God knows exactly what you did with that mugwort. Local laws are even less reliable than the church. One year, the Lord might decide that henbane is forbidden because his wife started talking to imaginary hedgehogs. The next year, the village healer uses it to cure the Lord's headaches, and suddenly it is back in fashion. Opium is sometimes celebrated as a miracle cure for pain, but it is sometimes lumped together with foreign sorcery, the kind of sorcery that makes local magistrates very nervous. Occasionally, someone remembers to check the king's official proclamations, but by the time the news arrives in the village, everyone has already moved on to the next popular herb. Then there is the matter of town gossip. If your neighbor is jealous of your beautiful garden, suddenly your rosemary bush is described as unnaturally large, and you are a suspect in some vague crime. If the mayor's mother-in-law is feeling generous, that very same bush is evidence of God's green mercy. The line is so blurry that it is best to be cautious. Keep your potions in a jar labeled lentil soup, and pray that nobody ever asks you for a taste. Witchcraft accusations are a constant and serious threat. Being caught with a simple bundle of herbs is sometimes all it takes for someone to point and whisper, "She has the devil's parsley." Before you know it, you are sitting in the town square. The wise woman is testifying that yes, you did mix hemp and poppy, but only to help the blacksmith's wife, to help her sleep through her husband's loud snoring. And let us not forget about the nobles. What is illegal for the peasants is a healthy regimen for the rich. The lord's wife can have a chest full of poppy syrup and imported sleeping stones and a bottle labeled Midnight Courage, all without a second glance from anyone. You, meanwhile, get a suspicious look just for growing too much fennel in your garden. Ultimately, the only real law is do not get caught. Or, if you do get caught, make sure you have a very convincing explanation, and maybe a spare pie for the constable. Whether your herbs are medicine or they are mischief, survival in medieval times means navigating an ever-shifting landscape, a landscape of law, rumor, and religious panic. So, if you find yourself in trouble, just remember, keep your head down low, keep your herbs well hidden, and never ever share your secret recipe with the choir boys. You are suffering from medieval withdrawal, and the local priest is convinced that you are possessed. Someone brings out the holy water, someone else brings out more beer. This is medieval medicine at its finest. It is caught somewhere between the world of science and the realm of maybe the devil did it. Let us say you have run out of your nightly dose of poppy syrup, or you have used your last pinch of hemp. Suddenly you are sweating and shivering. You are muttering about the color of the walls. To the modern mind, these are classic symptoms of withdrawal. To your medieval neighbors, you have either got a case of the wind, or you are hiding a small demon under your hat. The priest arrives armed with holy water. He has a determination that could curdle fresh milk. He listens to your problems. He notes your twitchy behavior and your haunted-looking eyes. He immediately skips over the idea of illness. He goes in favor of demonic possession. He sprinkles holy water on you. He prays very loudly, and he recommends a long and detailed confession, preferably one that covers every bad decision since your christening. His theory is that when your soul gets too used to herbal comfort, it leaves a spiritual vacancy inside of you, a vacancy that demons are all too happy to fill. To be fair, after 3 days off the poppy syrup, you are open to trying anything that will make the headache stop. You would even consider an exorcism at this point. Your family, meanwhile, takes a more practical approach to your problem. Grandma insists you just need to sweat it out. She plops you down in front of the fire. She wraps you in 3 thick blankets. She brews a tea so bitter you suspect it is just hot pond water. She means well, but after your second cup of her tea, you are seeing spots. You are pondering the meaning of rock bottom, all while a chicken tries to build a nest in your lap. The neighbors hear all the commotion and come running. Someone brings you fresh beer, because, in medieval logic, if you are shaking, you must be very thirsty. Someone else offers you a mug of courage wine. It is laced with a little leftover poppy, just in case this problem is more medical than it is supernatural. Before long, you are the center of a full-blown community crisis. It is a cross between a medieval intervention and a very poorly organized bake sale. Superstition is absolutely everywhere. Are you having withdrawal shakes? That must be elf shot. Are you having strange dreams? That must be the work of the fairies. Or perhaps you offended the village's guardian saint by refusing a second helping at last Sunday's feast. In the Middle Ages, there is a folk explanation for everything. The only real cure for addiction is time, a supportive family, and not letting the priest find out about your stash, your emergency stash of mandrake under the mattress. But addiction is not just a peasant's problem. The local lord's sister is quietly hooked on her soothing wine. Half of the clergy depend on a holy syrup to make it through midnight prayers. They are just better at hiding it. But everyone knows the truth. Still, when withdrawal comes to call, the symptoms are always the same. There are nerves and sweats, an unshakable feeling that something is missing, and a deep philosophical need, the need for just one more cup of literally anything. The priest, of course, wants to see a miracle. He will perform blessings, he will chant psalms, and if all else fails, he will recommend a pilgrimage to the nearest shrine. But most of the villagers know the real truth. There are no easy cures. There is just a lot of waiting and sweating and drinking creative herbal teas. You ride out the worst of it. You are surrounded by a chorus of prayers and the occasional sprinkle of holy water and enough beer to float a small fishing boat. Eventually, the fever breaks. Your head finally clears. The village breathes a collective sigh of relief, and everyone returns to pretending you just had a touch of the summer fever. The priest offers you a final blessing. Your family welcomes you back with some warm soup. The neighbors quietly ask if you are holding on to any extra poppy syrup. For emergencies, of course. So, the next time you think about modern detox routines, just remember that in medieval times your choices were very limited. It was holy water beer, and whatever magic the wise woman could brew in her cottage. If you survived, you were considered cured, and you probably owed the local priest a very large candle. It turns out the rich are not just addicted to land and power, they are also quietly hooked on poppy tinctures, and nobody wants to mention it, especially not at church on Sunday. Picture this, a grand stone manor. It has stained glass windows and echoing halls, and a suspiciously large collection of velvet cushions. The lord of the manor is draped across his chaise lounge. His pose is meant to evoke deep thought, but it is really just so he does not have to stand up. At his elbow sits a delicate silver vial. It is ornately etched with lions and griffins. If you look very closely, you can see a poppy blossom or two hiding in plain sight. These are the secrets of the medieval upper crust. While the peasants dose themselves with home-brewed remedies and with wise woman potions, the nobles have access to the finest imported opium and poppy syrup and elixirs straight from the Venetian apothecary. An apothecary who conveniently never asks questions and always accepts gold. In the noble household, a headache is never just a headache. It is an opportunity to break out the special tonic. It is best enjoyed in private chambers, behind a locked door, or during the third hour of a particularly boring mass. Officially, these poppy tinctures are for medical ailments, for migraines, or female troubles, or that mysterious condition known only as nerves. Unofficially, the Lord's favorite excuse is that he is preparing for diplomacy. This apparently requires spending hours contemplating the ceiling and occasionally giggling at the chandelier. Lady Marjorie, meanwhile, has her own private stash. It is hidden in the false bottom of a jewelry box. It is used to survive long embroidery sessions and tedious poetry recitals, and the horror of listening to her cousin, who plays the lute off-key for the 100th time. The household staff are well aware of this. The steward pretends not to notice. When the master's morning medicine leaves him blissed out for the entire afternoon, the chambermaids quietly refill the bottles with diluted wine. They pray that nobody notices the difference. The family physician is paid handsomely. He is paid to look concerned and to write indecipherable notes in Latin. He recommends modest use of the tinctures. Then he accepts his own dose as a form of payment. Even the chaplain is eager to protect his lord's soul. He looks the other way unless he is in on the stash himself. What makes it all so secret is the reputation game. Nobles live and die by their appearances, by robust health and good breeding, and the ability to endure 9-hour banquets, to endure them without openly weeping into the gravy. Admitting to a poppy habit is out of the question, even as everyone develops a suspicious fondness for herbal cordials and digestive drops. Gossip flows like mead at a wedding, but direct confrontation is very rare. Instead, there are endless coded conversations between the ladies. How is the Lord's sleep these days, one might ask. Lady Marjorie seems so wonderfully serene, another might comment. Is it true the Baron's new apothecary studied in the mysterious city of Baghdad? No one ever says the word addicted. That is a peasant's problem. This is simply a refined taste. Of course, overindulgence has its own set of perils. There are hushed rumors about lords sleeping through important council meetings, or of ladies drifting off halfway through a jousting tournament. Occasionally, someone becomes so relaxed they forget which side of the table they are supposed to sit on, or they spend an entire afternoon convinced the family cat is reciting Latin poetry. The official story is always the same. It was exhaustion, or the weather, or something strange was in the stew. Behind the closed doors, the reality is much simpler. The rich are just as human as everyone else. They just have better furniture and more expensive bad habits. Their poppy-laced evenings are filled with soft laughter and wild dreams, and the gentle assurance that tomorrow's troubles can wait until tomorrow. And as long as no one says it out loud, everything remains perfectly respectable and proper, until, of course, the bishop comes to visit unannounced. He finds half the household napping blissfully through the evening prayers. So the next time you picture a medieval lord or lady, remember that underneath all the velvet and the jewels and the carefully curated dignity, there is a secret bottle of poppy tincture tucked away. It is proof that even the mighty need a little escape, an escape from the madness of medieval life, especially if it helps them survive another terrible lute solo. At the annual Midsummer Festival, the air is thick with wood smoke, and with laughter, and with the suspiciously sweet smell of burning herbs. By midnight, half the village is either singing loudly or they are hugging a tree. Welcome to the highlight of the medieval social calendar, the festival where everyone from the tiniest child to the oldest crone comes together to eat and drink, and to temporarily forget about the plague and taxes, and the ongoing battle with moles in the barley field. Preparation for the festival starts days in advance. Bonfires are built high, barrels of ale are rolled out, a parade of pies, cheeses, and slightly burnt sausages appears. It appears as if by magic, but the real magic is in the air. Somewhere between the smell of roasting meat and the smell of mulled wine. You notice it, the unmistakable scent of something more than just firewood. That is because the herb man has arrived. His wagon is piled high with dried bundles of sage and mugwort, and, depending on how adventurous the village is feeling, hemp or even a pinch of henbane, he trades his packets for the latest gossip. Everyone insists their recipe for the festival stew is just traditional. This is medieval code for do not ask too many questions. As dusk falls, the party begins to pick up speed. The ale flows freely. It is sometimes spiked with a little extra herbal spirit. This is courtesy of the wise woman, who claims it helps with one's dancing. The town fiddler tunes his instrument. The first round of maypole dancing begins. And before you know it, the line between enthusiastic and possessed by the spirit of the festival, starts to blur. Someone is always the first to suggest smoking a little something. Just for good luck, of course. Suddenly, the festival bonfire is ringed with people. People who are slightly too invested in discussing the shape of clouds or the political motivations of sheep. The older villagers wink knowingly at each other. It is all in good fun, they say. They say this while sipping their herbal punch. They have an expression that suggests they are about to discover a new color. The children, meanwhile, dart through the crowd. They have sticky hands and grass in their hair. They are entirely immune to the deeper mysteries of the festival. But they are perfectly tuned to the sugar in the honey cakes. By the time the second round of hemp cakes is served, the singing has gotten noticeably louder. The arguments over who can jump the bonfire the highest are interrupted only by fits of giggles and the occasional impromptu nap under the tables. It is not all chaos, though. The festival is also about community and ritual. The herbs that are burned on the bonfire are said to ward off evil. They are meant to bring good harvests, and at least according to the apothecary, they are meant to cure bad moods and sore knees. Couples sneak off to the edge of the fields. They weave garlands for each other. The blacksmith challenges the miller to a wrestling match. The loser has to clean the pigsty. The priest gives his annual speech on the importance of moderation, but nobody hears it. Everyone is too busy howling at the moon. By midnight, you cannot tell if the world is spinning from the dancing or if it is from the herbs. Someone is serenading the village. Well, someone else is convinced the old oak tree is giving excellent life advice. The mayor, a normally serious man, has climbed onto a hay bale. He is reciting a love poem to his own boots. The wise woman gently reminds everyone to drink some water, or at least something that is not currently on fire. As the embers glow and the laughter fades, people begin to stumble home. They are wrapped in borrowed cloaks and the last lingering warmth of the herbal haze. The village green is littered with wildflower crowns and empty mugs, and the odd sleeping reveler, they are dreaming contentedly of flying cows. The next morning life returns to a state of normal. The festival is a blur of memory. It is half real and wholly absurd. But for a brief, herb-scented night, everyone in the village was just a little lighter, a little freer, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit happier for having hugged a tree and for having sung to the stars. In the world of medieval festivals, that is a victory worth celebrating. So, tonight, as you drift off in your clean sheets, far from the drafty halls of medieval inns and the questionable charms of herbal medicine. Maybe take a moment to marvel at how far we have come. Your mattress does not contain any straw. Your headache is not treated with opium mixed into wine by a sleep-deprived monk. The only poppy seeds you have to worry about are the ones stuck in your teeth from your breakfast. That is what we call progress. Think about the resilience of the people back then. They lived day by day through feasts and famines and plagues and parties, all while chasing the next big miracle cure, or simply a decent night's sleep. They made it through the cold winters and the rough mornings, and the kind of hangovers that would end most modern friendships. They tried every remedy and every herb. They were hoping to find some peace, or some relief, or at the very least, a really good story to tell at the next village festival. Maybe it all seems a little funny to us now, but it is also a testament to how stubborn and creative people have always been. And let's face it, they were also delightfully reckless. History is absolutely full of big risks, and it is full of small comforts. It is full of the kind of just try it and see what happens energy. The kind of energy that gets you either a major breakthrough or occasionally a stern visit from the local priest with some holy water. So as you settle into the quiet of your room tonight, and you let the day finally slip away, remember that you are the descendant of true survivors. People who made it through bad wine and worse medicine, and the world's original group hangover. They navigated a world filled with strange potions and uncertain cures. They found ways to cope with the hardness of their lives. They built communities that celebrated and mourned together, often with the help of a mysterious herbal punch. Be grateful for your quiet fan, and for your soft pillow, and for your modern pharmacy. And be grateful for the fact that no one is about to slip henbane into your midnight snack. Your comforts are the result of centuries of trial and error. Much of that error was far more dramatic than simply taking the wrong cold medicine. The path to modern science was paved with good intentions and a lot of very strange side effects. Thanks for spending your evening here with us at Medieval Nocturnes. Your listenership and support mean the world. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, and if our story helped you relax and unwind, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more content. It helps us continue to explore these forgotten corners of history. We love making these sleepy stories for you. We would also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below if you made it all the way to the end of our tale. Let us know where in the world you are listening from and what time it is for you. We enjoy reading your messages from all across the globe. Just please do not tell me what herbs you might be sipping on tonight. Some secrets are best kept to yourself. Sleep well, dream easy, and may your only midnight visions be the soothing and mildly absurd kind. The kind that makes you smile in your sleep without needing any help from a medieval potion. Good night.